I never thought I'd see the day when cops would stand on my front lawn ready to haul me off like some kind of criminal while my little girl clutched my hand crying. All because the HOA president, the so-called guardian of our neighborhood standards, decided I was a threat. She painted me as dangerous, unstable, even unfit to raise my daughter. And the craziest part, it all started with a simple wooden sign I hung in my yard, the kind you'd barely notice driving by. I live in a quiet suburb outside Houston in a 2-story brick house with a patchy lawn I'm still learning to tame. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine, and I love it because it's where I raise my daughter, Emily. I put up that little sign by our walkway, hand-painted with the words, "Welcome friends, not HOA rules." It was a joke, a way of telling people my home was warm and open, not some showroom for power-hungry board members. Apparently, though, it was the ultimate insult to Linda Matthews, the president of our HOA. Linda was the kind of woman you could hear before you saw. Her voice always carried sharp and clipped as if every word was a rule you were already breaking. She was in her early 50s with brittle, over-bleached hair and a collection of power blazers that looked straight out of a discount law office. She thrived on control. So, when she marched up my driveway clipboard in hand and demanded I take the sign down, I knew trouble was coming. I told her politely that the sign wasn't violating any covenant. It was just a friendly message. Her eyes narrowed like I'd just spat in her coffee. She scribbled something in her little notebook and said, "You'll regret this." Then she spun on her heel and stomped away. At first, I shrugged it off. Petty power moves were Linda's whole personality, and I figured she'd find another victim soon enough. But a week later, I came outside to find my fence slashed open and paint splattered across my front door, bright red streaks dripping down like blood. On the handle, someone taped a note, "Comply or leave." My stomach turned. It wasn't just vandalism, it was a message. I called the HOA board. They brushed me off, acting like maybe I'd done it myself to stir drama. When I pushed harder, Linda herself chimed in during the call saying people who defy the rules usually cause their own problems. It was gaslighting, pure and simple. I hung up, furious. That night I sat in my living room staring at the ruined door, wondering if I'd made a mistake standing up to her. Maybe I should have just taken the damn sign down. Maybe I was putting Emily at risk by being stubborn. The breaking point came 2 days later. Cops knocked on my door at 7 a.m. Linda had filed a report claiming I'd threatened neighbors with a weapon. A complete lie. They handcuffed me on my own porch while Emily stood barefoot in her pajamas crying, "Daddy, don't go." That moment, it crushed me. I'd never felt smaller, more powerless. In that instant, I thought about selling the house, walking away just to protect her from all this madness. But then something shifted. Later that night, a knock came at my back door. It was Daniel, my neighbor from across the street, holding a small USB stick. He whispered, "I've got something you'll want to see." His security cameras had caught Linda's teenage son sneaking into my yard with paint cans while Linda stood on the sidewalk barking orders like a drill sergeant. Her voice was crystal clear on the audio. "Dump it all over. Teach him who runs this neighborhood." I stared at the footage, my hands shaking. Proof. It wasn't just me against her lies anymore. The next day, I confided in Karen Wilson, another neighbor who used to be a lawyer before she retired. She'd clashed with Linda before and didn't hesitate. "Michael," she said firmly, "don't let her win. This isn't just about you. If you give in, she'll keep doing it to everyone." That was the push I needed. A week later, Linda convened an emergency HOA meeting in the clubhouse. The room was packed, neighbors sitting in folding chairs murmuring nervously. Linda stood at the front like a queen addressing her court. She called me a menace, claimed I endangered children, that I was creating chaos. Then she jabbed her finger toward me and practically spat, "If the authorities won't handle you, I will." The room erupted, people shouting over each other, some backing me, others too scared of her wrath. Emily sat beside me, gripping my arm, terrified. I stood up slowly. My heart pounded, but my voice was steady. "Enough," I said. "You want the truth? Here it is." I plugged Daniel's USB into the projector. The screen lit up and suddenly the room went silent. There it was, in full color, Linda directing her son to vandalize my property, her voice dripping with arrogance. Make sure he can't scrub that off. Gasps filled the room. You could hear a pin drop. Linda froze her face, draining of color. Then came the sound of heavy footsteps. 2 officers walked in, tipped off by Daniel and Karen. They watched the footage themselves, then turned to Linda. One of them said flatly, "Ma'am, you're coming with us." She tried to bluster, stammering about doctored evidence and neighborhood standards, but it was over. They cuffed her right there in front of everyone. As they led her out, I caught her glare. Pure venom. She hissed, "This isn't the end." But her voice trembled. For the first time, Linda Matthews wasn't the one in control. She was just another liar exposed under the harsh light of truth. That night, I didn't celebrate. There was no champagne, no victory dance. I just sat on the porch, staring at the busted fence and the paint stains still on my door. Emily curled against my side. The fight had drained everything out of me, but the one thing that remained was clear: when you let bullies write the rules, they'll never stop until someone stands up and says no. And that's the lesson I learned the hard way, that sometimes the only way to protect your home is to fight back, no matter how ugly it gets.